Doma Sports Talk worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Now let's talk legends. Let's talk future Hall of Famers. Let's talk number one pound for pound, in my opinion, in boxing. And most people know why. It was Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, or should I say Dr. Dismantle, right? Because he dismantles the fighters he fights. Mr. Boo Boo Andrade. You know, Demetrius Andrade is like Bigfoot, right? We know he's there, but then again, you never see him, and it's blurry when you see Mr. Bigfoot. You know, never get a good picture of him. The same thing with Demetrius Andrade. You know, we talk about Demetrius Andrade like he's not been pro. This guy's been pro 12 years, been champion about 8 years, 8 years, and they're all in the exact same division as Canelo Alvarez. All the time at 154, the junior middleweight division, now champion, two-time champion in that division, and now the middleweight division, a champion in that division, and has been was the key to an undisputed fight with Canelo last year. Now, some other things about him. Um, his next mandatory challenger, and I'm gonna put it in parentheses here, you know, put it in quotation marks, excuse me, because is Leon Williams, right? Leon Williams is 23-2-1. Leon Williams has lost to those two times to Liam Smith, who basically Canelo beat, and Leon Smith didn't really want none of Demetrius Andrade. Long story there. But Leon Williams takes out Andrew Robinson yesterday, and you know, commits to talking about he wants Demetrius Andrade. He wants a big fight, right? Now, here's what's significant about that. Yes, he can have a big fight, but he was number three behind Jaime Munguia. Jaime Munguia was the mandatory challenger for Demetrius Andrade. And Jaime Munguia, as a mandatory challenger, didn't want to have the fight. He's going to fight Turiana Johnson. So he's given up the fact that he's mandatory. I ain't fighting Demetrius Andrade. I'm going to fight Turiana Johnson as a mandatory. Now let's see what the WBO does. They shouldn't give him a shot after that. Now the guy after him is Leon Williams. Leon Williams wins a fight against a guy who had 6 losses already. And then he starts talking about Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Andrade can't run for him forever. Like Demetrius Andrade is trying to run from anybody, and he knows damn well that that is not the case, right? But he's talking like a guy who wants to fight with Demetrius Andrade. He's talking like a normal mandatory does. Brash, loud, want their opportunity. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is that Jaime Munguia was the guy who should have been talking like that. He didn't. He was the real mandatory. This guy was ranked three. So he doesn't. Let's make sure that WBO doesn't start saying, "Hey, Demetrius, you have to fight this guy." He's not one. No, they should be saying, "Jaime Munguia, you're not going to come back after fighting Toriel Johnson and start pushing up like you're the mandatory because you were the mandatory. You should have been fighting Demetrius Andrade and it would have been a big fight. Now we don't have a big fight, and all the people that hate these guys, make sure that it's clear. Jaime Munguia did not want to fight Demetrius Andrade. So let's not say that Demetrius Andrade, who he fought when he has to fight Leon Williams. That's not what Demetrius Andrade wants to do right now. He would rather fight the big names. That's clear. But make sure that it's clear. The mandatory did not want to fight him. That only happens to Negro leaguers, right? Who I say are in boxing are Negro League fighters. And that means fighters of color who would not get an opportunity to be great, like the Negro Leagues back in the day. Knew that they were damn just as good as the other ones, right? I ain't gonna say the white boys, but it was good as them, but they couldn't play in that league to prove it, right? So that's what Negro Leagues is. That's what happens to these fighters. Like Guillermo Rigondeaux is in the Negro Leagues. Everybody avoided him. All of those wonderful names, the Carl Framptons, Scott Quiggs, Leon Santa Cruz, and Abner Morrison of the world, all of them are more famous than him and ran away from him. He beat Nonito Donaire, who was number three pound for pound. They should have put Rigo at number one, but instead they blackballed him and they would not give him an opportunity. And he's damn near 40 years old. Negro League. Louis the Real King Kong Ortiz. People mandatory to fight, mandated to fight him. A Dillian White. We don't care, right? He would never get a shot. Anthony Joshua was mandatory. They don't care. He's not going to get a shot. Negro Leagues, right? If it wasn't for Deontay Wilder, Louis the Real King Kong Ortiz would never get a shot. If you think I'm lying, anybody else in the top 15 in boxing have they fought Louis the Real King Kong Ortiz? Even though everybody knows that he's awesome, everybody knows that he's ranked everywhere. Now, anybody could say, "Hey, I'm gonna fight Louis the Real King Kong Ortiz." Whoever the fighter is that fights and beat Louis the Real King Ortiz King Kong Ortiz and beats the hell out of him would be a megastar, especially if he's not of color. And everyone knows it, right? So Demetrius Andrade is the same way. How can you be in fighting in the same division as Canelo with titles, calling him out the whole time, and you are the champion? Actually, he was the champion when Canelo wasn't, begging him to fight, and you can never get a fight, and no one says nothing. Either Gennady Golovkin, and they will held the guys that don't want to fight him way better than him. That's why, no, he's number one. One. I didn't say top five. He's number one pound for pound in my opinion, because it's been going on for too damn long, right? Too damn long. So Williams, hold up, right? But anyway, Demetrius Andrade has basically said out, well, I don't, the Williamses of the world, the Luke Keelers of the world, excuse me right now, fellas, I'm not trying to, denigrate you guys or put you guys down, but right now, I'm 30-something years old, 32. They should have to fight me right now, those fighters. He says Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo acting like bitches. Straight up, the female dogs is what I'm going to probably put on the title, but they acting like bitches. Billy Joe Saunders was supposed to fight him 2 years ago. What happened? Billy Joe Saunders was doped. He should have been out of the picture. Canelo was waiting on Billy Joe Saunders trying to make a fight with him instead of the guy who was ready to fight, which is Demetrius Andrade, who was not doped. You understand? And the other guy's getting the time. We waiting on the guy who's doped and acting the fool on the internet telling you how to beat up your girlfriend, right? That guy we're waiting for. That guy, right? And he's had lackluster performances, right? Not the guy who has the title and been wanting to fight the whole time. Then not only that, I'm not going to Britain to fight the guy, even though he's British. Want to bring him to America, right? Not the American guys who are already awesome, ridiculous, right? But Billy Joe Saunders don't want to fight your boy Demetrius Andrade, and he keeps telling Demetrius Andrade, "Well, I'm in the Canelo sweepstakes." Demetrius Andrade's not in the sweepstakes for some reason. Eddie Hearn, the promoter of all of these guys, basically, Billy Joe Saunders and Demetrius Andrade, and the play the zone, all of them. Canelo, Gennady Golovkin, Billy Joe Saunders, and Andrade, all under the zone. It's easy fights to make, but they don't talk about them. They keep talking about Charlo or something. Andrade can fight Charlo, and he's not even there, right? Instead of saying these guys don't want to fight him, right? Don't want to fight him. So for me, this is boxing's main story, right? There's a few stories like who he's gonna fight ever. He's suing the zone. That's a big story in boxing. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, if the fight's gonna happen, if they're gonna talk about Glovegate ever again, or what's gonna happen there. That's a big thing in boxing. But the Demetrius Andrade story is a main story. Most people should be focusing on this, forcing people to make sure that they understand that we know that no one's fighting Demetrius Andrade, not that he's out of sight, out of mind, and we're sitting here talking about other guys and who Demetrius Andrade fought, knowing that you don't have any stories of him not fighting anybody, right? Let me tell you something. Demetrius Andrade has even said something that I've been complaining about for a long time, right? You have the Charlo brothers, right? I do not want Demetrius Andrade and Jamal Charlo to fight yet until it's for all of the damn belts, until we both get a chance to fight Canelo and Gennady Golovkin. And after that, we have a round robin tournament, one of them versus Canelo, or Charlo versus Canelo, or Demetrius Andrade versus Canelo, and the other one against Gennady Golovkin, and then boom, the two winners fight. That's what I would like. Then for all of the belts. I'm not going to cancel these brothers out, because the loser of Demetrius Andrade and Jamal Charlo ain't never fighting Canelo or Andrade, because then you got a loss. Okay, that's what would happen there. So no, we're not canceling these brothers out. You go see the brothers first. Brothers don't even think about fighting each other. I know they want to, and I've seen Andrade say this. And check this out: I'll beat both of them damn Charlos. That's what Demetrius Andrade has said. Now, ask yourself this: has your favorite fighter, Canelo or Gennady Golovkin, ever said that? Ever? Like at all? They won't fight one of the damn Charlos. Let alone I'll beat both of them. And that's what my point was. Just like the Klitschko's back in the day, some fighters will be like, I'll beat both of them. I'm going to beat one Klitschko and then I'll fight the next one. Fighters that want to fight. I'll beat both of those damn Charlos. If Jamel comes up to 160, I'll get him. And me and Charlo, we can fight at 160, 168, doesn't matter. Jamal. So, this is what we're talking about. This guy is there. He's not a Bigfoot. He's not a myth. He's been a champion for all of these years. And we're talking about people like, well, Charlo won't fight nobody. And we know damn well that that is not true. right? We know that. So it's our job to not to give a damn what media is telling us and who's number one. And Charlo, excuse me, not Charlo, but Canelo would not ever be over Demetrius Andrade in my pound for pound list, ever until he fights him. Because the reactions of what you've done, your actions have proven you're not doing that, and that's why he's in a lawsuit right now. If he would have fought Canelo last year for undisputed, do you think the Zone would have said something against an undisputed fight against Demetrius Andrade? No. Do you think the Zone would have said something if Canelo would have said, "Man, I'm about to fight Charlo in Texas"? No. Those are those premium opponents that they're talking about. They just don't want to say them names because it's brothers. Because once you say their name, it's like we're not paying you 35 million until you fight Andre and Charlo. Then the world has to do that. That's the reason why they're not pound for pound higher. Because then the world would know, hey, damn it, Canelo and Gennady Golovkin would have to go see them. What we do is we ignore them, put them in the Negro leagues, and nobody talks about them, so we can continue to hail these guys as better than them. That's the game, baby. So it don't matter. Bottom line is Demetrius Dr. Dismantle Andrade is number one pound for pound. Leon Williams should wait. The world should force Canelo to fight him or Gennady Golovkin to fight him. Gennady Golovkin is about to fight Zemaretta. Okay? And Canelo is doing the world everything, upsetting his promotion company, his network, and everything because he's not fighting Demetrius Andrade and he ain't fighting Charlo either. Is that fair? Right? Because I understand how it is. You mentioned one of these Negro leaguers, Louis the Real King Kong Ortiz, Deontay Wilder, uh, Demetrius Andrade, Guillermo Rigondeaux, a Charlo, or something like that, and all these other fighters been doped around them and don't want to fight them and all that. People are thumbs downing immediately, but that's just consistent to what the world we're living in. Ain't nobody want fairness. These guys deserve fights, and boxing is the only sport where great athletes we can just simply ignore them because we don't have no regulations that to force them to fight. Even though they're champions, we can still ignore them. We can figure out ways. Just like the latest one is the biggest one, the hit right now in boxing is the franchise championship, which is basically we can avoid some stuff if we want to. So whatever's clever, Demetrius Andrade, you damn right, is number one pound for pound. And he says Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders is acting like bitches. This is not new. He's been calling Canelo that for years. For years. Back when he was 154-pound champion. 2013, something like that. Think about it. Get on the goddamn bandwagon. It's about, it's time now. Doma Sports Talk, worldwide. And I'm about here, y'all.